We are about to embark on an immersive journey through the corridors of our minds. Stand by as we prepare for departure.
Welcome aboard, everyone, to the Productivity with Peace of Mind podcast adventure. Our journey will begin in just a moment. Inhale deeply and exhale. Our voyage takes us on a captivating tour, diving deep into the intricate layers of our thoughts and imagination. Brace yourselves for the complexities of our evolution. For a safe and enjoyable journey, stay seated. Secure your helmet and protective goggles, and keep hands, feet, and legs inside while the ride is moving. Now relax and enjoy.
Today we have with us Diamond Garcia. She is the founder of Sparkle by Diamond. She's an expertise as a fractional COO who specializes in operations and events. She has a passion for women's leadership development as an entrepreneur and single mom. Well, welcome, Diamond. We are so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be on the podcast today too.
Awesome. So I want to start out kind of with the basics of like, why do you think operations and automations are so important to business? Like, why is it so important for us to work smarter, not harder?
It's really all about our time, right? And our efficiency, because if we're spending all of our time doing all these little tasks that can be automated instead of spending our time on tasks that is actually generating income, it's just a waste of time. And it's also, I was just talking about this the other day with a friend, that operations works for not just your business, but your personal life too, because then if you don't have the system set up, then you don't have boundaries, especially as entrepreneurs. You need to have those systems set up so that you can work for yourself and then still have the time to have a life. Because I feel like that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs hit a wall with, is they go into business for themselves and then they're working 24/7. They're available to clients all the time. They're working super late, but those operations will give you time back.
Yeah, and those boundaries are really important that you're talking about. How can we start to set those, or maybe consider like, what boundaries do I need to set?
Yeah, I think the biggest one I learned when I first started was um, like time management boundaries, because I was working
Yeah.
full time. My son was a toddler. I think at the time I was still going to school and I was like on the board for some nonprofit. So I had to learn quickly to say, I'm going to spend this much time with my son and allocate family time first and then business time, because then if I didn't, I ran out of time and never had time for my son.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Well, it sounds like priorities are a big part of that, of like, okay, what's important to you? And then how do you make those decisions based on where you want your energy to go?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of like, what are your priorities? What are your values? Why did you go into being an entrepreneur? Why are you doing this business? And how do you make it work for you versus you working in a business and it's not any different than you working a 9 to 5 or whatever reasons you decide to go into business for yourself. And then also then
Yeah.
you can maximize your business. Without systems, you're not going to be able to scale.
Right, right. Well, even for those of us who, have, corporate careers, if you
Mhm.
don't have systems in the way that you work and the way that you show up every day and get the work done that you need to get done, even working for an organization, that can
Absolutely.
really take your life as well.
Yeah, you need to have a system, even when you're working a corporate job. Like when I was to work 9 to 5, I would have my systems too, of like when I checked my emails, when I was getting work done, when I would take a break, kind of time blocking was really important.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a huge fan of time blocking, huge.
Mhm.
So how can we start to train our brains to work in these systems that you're talking about rather than, in all of this chaos going on around us?
It's really a practice, you know, it's a mindset practice. And I would say start with little things and habit stacking. I don't know if you've read the Atomic Habits book. And so it's really just practice, like said, thinking of like, what is it that I want to start systematizing and then slowly building upon it and growing upon it. So usually with like businesses, it's the first thing I systematize is like their calendar and then how they book
Yeah.
clients, you know, and then so your calendar can be personal and professional. Like how are you managing your time? Because we all have the same amount of hours and it's the way you decide to use it is how you're going to become efficient and reach goals and be successful.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, because if you just, let your calendar, kind of run you versus you really take control of that calendar and decide how you're going to show up and what you're going to be doing with those blocks, it'll just overrun your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then like the scheduling is such a huge tool, like in systematizing that for both professional and personal lives, you know, whether you're a 9 to 5 or an entrepreneur, because then you decide that's a boundary of like when you're spending time for yourself, for your family, for your work, and then making sure it's balanced in the way or harmonized in the way that you want to live your life.
Yeah, 100%. Knowing that big picture, I think is huge. And I think a lot of people will like have their business and professional life and things like that, first and then figure out, okay, what's left for my personal life versus what you just said of like, what do you want your life to look like? And
Yeah.
then build your calendar around that.
Yeah, and I think that's like the mindset piece because I mean, it's kind of like the American dream, right? You're supposed to work, 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 and capitalize and capitalism and consumerism. And so we're kind of taught to prioritize work over what we value and the type of lives we want to have. And that was also a mind shift I had to overcome with my son and like, what kind of life do I want? And it keeps evolving. And now that it's changed again, it's kind of like, this is the life I want. Now, how do I create it and put in the systems to make sure I reach it and can maintain it? Because I'm sure a lot of us see those Instagram reels where people are saying they work from their computer from a beach or Bali, or they're always traveling and doing all these things. That's because they have systems in place, they have automations in place where they're working way smarter, way less, and all of their systems are doing the work.
Yeah. So if we're, listening to this and we're like, got it, love it, I want to do it. How do we start thinking about like, where do we put that in place and how do we put that in place into our lives? Whether, like you said earlier, it can be for your personal life or your business or your career.
Yeah, I think it starts with big picture thinking. Like, what is your vision for your life? Kind of working with the end in mind and then working backwards. You're like, okay. So, for example, I wanted to leave 9 to 5. I wanted to be able to sustain my business because I really, really valued my time and like being able to manage my own time and not being on the clock or having to clock in or worried about if my child was sick and I had to be at a call in and I kind of be at work, like all these things. So I really valued my time. Like I want to be the master of my time. And
Yeah.
so when I was working backwards, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to make sure I am able to do that? And um I decided like obviously I was gonna leave 9 to 5, really go full time in my business and give myself that freedom. And so it's kind of like,
Yeah.
what is it that you want? What you want your life to look like? Do you need a job that just pays the bills? Do you want a job that is half passion project and half pays the bills? Like, or is it full passion project? Like, how do you want to balance work and play?
Well, and I like the way that you break that down too, right? Because it's like, you look at that big picture, but then you are working backwards and, putting that into bite-sized manageable pieces to be able to build that out. It's kind of like the building blocks of your life.
It is. And I feel like we're not taught that to think of like, how do I want
Yeah.
my life to look like? And then making the necessary changes and steps to get there when I think it's getting better now these days, right? Because entrepreneurs and women and people are saying, this is how I want to live my life. And they're doing a four-day work week, or like a 5-hour work day, or like whatever it is, whichever way it works for you. Because obviously we all need to work to sustain that life. But it's like, how much are you going to work and how hard are you going to work?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that too, because looking at like, how much do you want to work? How much effort do you want to put it in? And then does that match that lifestyle that you were saying you want to have?
Absolutely. And it's just kind of, it goes back to, again, like, what do you want? And I feel like we don't sit down and give ourselves the time to figure it out, because we're constantly consuming on social media and mainstream media and all the things in the news. And we don't take the time to say and decide, like, what is it that I want that is not what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, yeah, right. Because if we just follow what everyone else is doing, we end up going like 50 different directions, getting nowhere, right?
Yeah. Or you end up living a life you don't love. Someone else
Yeah,
made the decisions for you versus you taking control of your life and saying, this is what I want.
right. Yeah. Like, did you take that path you were supposed to take?
Yeah,
Or,
exactly. Exactly. And I think that's what like a lot of entrepreneurs do, right? They're like, I don't want a normal career track, and that's why they jump into entrepreneurship. And even like my
yeah,
story as a single mom, like I struggled with that mindset because I got pregnant in college. And so then I took a while to finish my last year with my son. It took me like another 5 years before I went back and finished, and like not doing things in order or the right
yeah,
way, the way that everybody else is doing. Like it took me forever
yeah,
to get over that. Like, no, this is my life. The education is
yeah,
for me. My son needs me. Like, it doesn't matter what people are saying, what everybody else is doing. And then I graduated. I bought a house, still not married. So it's like I still think things out of order. And now I'm like, you know what? Why am I in this house and like being house poor? That's not the life I want.
mm,
I want to have
yeah,
the expenses to be able to go on vacation whenever I want or travel the world. Like that's really what I want to do, is experience life. So I was like, I'm gonna rent my house and go rent like a room for cheaper and then go travel. Like who says that I can't do that because I'm a single mom or because I have a child? Like I can take my kid out of school. I can put him in homeschooling. I can do all these things, and I can do that one because I'm an adult and it's my life and my child. And so
yeah.
if it's not what everybody else is doing, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love that you're continuing to ask those questions and like continuing to kind of pull back those layers of what does work for me and what do I want? And that can change.
It does. And I think like going back to your question, like where do we start? Um,
Yeah.
this like mindset change happened for me a few years ago, where I was seeing the women in my life who waited to like figure out who they were or discover what they loved after their kids were gone. I saw my mom do it.
Uh,
One of my previous supervisors, she did it. And so my mom did discover, she always kind of knew, but then was able to have the time, or thought now she has the time to invest in
yeah.
herself now that she doesn't have, now all the kids are out of the house. And then my previous supervisor, she had one child, he went to college, and then she just became a workaholic. And I was like,
Mm,
either of those scenarios. I'm like, at the time my son was,
yeah.
and I'm like, no, I think I want to figure out who I am now and invest in myself now and figure out what makes me happy. What can I do that is not productive, that doesn't is not tied to a responsibility, that I can do just because it brings me joy.
Yeah. I love that. And that's just such great self-awareness to like keep that part in mind of like what does bring me joy.
Mm-hmm. What brings you joy? Just because you like it, just because it makes you happy.
Yeah.
Not the reason, not because it makes you money, not because it's healthy, not because you're supposed to, not because someone told you to, not because everybody else is doing it, just because it makes you happy.
Right. Yeah. And we can build our life and systems around that.
Mm-hmm. You can. But then and then once you know where you're going, it's a lot easier to build those systems, because then you're saying no to that and yes to
Um,
this.
Right. Yeah. The decision fatigue is like out the door because you just know
You
that
just
aligns with it, that doesn't.
exactly. And once you decide, so like I love yoga. That's something I discovered in the last couple of years. I love yoga and I like going to yoga early in the morning. So that means I have to say no to late engagements on my calendar so I can go to bed early so I can fill my morning with yoga.
Yes. Oh,
And
I
vice
love that.
versa, that works for business, right? Like if your priority is networking, you need to block off those evenings or weekends whenever those events happen and give up, if that's how you want to look at it, or prioritize the networking. But it's always kind of a give and take. Like, what are you gonna
Yeah.
not accept so that you can have what you want? It's discipline.
Yeah.
It's a form of
Yeah.
commitment.
100%. Well, it's a choice, right? It's a choice that we're making.
It's a choice. And back to like the operations and the systems within business and with my clients and entrepreneurs, when we set up these systems, then it's a habit of using them and staying consistent and disciplined because we built those so that you could be more efficient. And you can build the systems you want, but if you're not committed to using them and building those habits to use them, then it's kind of a waste.
Totally. So you have done a ton of work in leadership development and, particularly for women. And can you tell us a little bit more about that? Or, what have you, taught or worked in, or what's kind of your favorite part of, developing leaders?
Well, right now it's funny that this ties in. I'm doing a co-event with another amazing woman, and we're talking about boundaries and networking. And
Nice.
we are setting it around like one, there's so many skills that go into networking. And I feel like my experience in the last couple of years, I was definitely afraid of networking events. And
Mhm.
so it took me time to like build up to being courageous to talk to people and confident and to know what to say and like having the mindset shift to know that I'm going in to meet people and create relationships, not make a sale. And so it's like those leadership skills are so important. And it's now one that I want to take back into another program that I volunteer for. So the leadership program that I was a part of, still am for since I was 15, is a
Wow.
nonprofit that does leadership development for young girls. And now that it's been 15 plus years since I've been in the program, and I'm like, now everything I've learned since then and the new things that I've learned, I bring back to teach the girls at a younger age. And I'll be like, okay, I just learned this in the last couple of years, but I'm going to teach you now between 15 and 18 so that you are like 10 steps ahead of the game.
Yeah.
You know those networking skills and you understand what boundaries are at a younger age so that you can be successful and get ahead on the path faster.
I love that. Well, and you also talk about, different, like, not just the leadership skills and things like that for our systems and organization, what we want to do, but also the holistic approach of grounding and mindset and self-care for ourselves. Like we talked about a little bit earlier of like what brings you joy. So
Yeah.
why are these things also important and how can we incorporate that into our lives?
Yeah, and it's little things, right? It's like going to bed on time. It's waking up early. It's getting some sunlight. It's moving your body. It's drinking enough water. And then sometimes self-care and self-love kind of gets confused with like the superficial things, especially for women, like getting our nails done and getting our hair done. Like those are nice too, but it's not really taking care of us internally, what we need so that we are ready to go energetically, emotionally, and mentally. And those systems go back into play in our personal lives so that we do set ourselves up for success, because if we're not personally aligned and ready to go and fill our cup, then it's definitely harder to give externally, whether that's at work, your business, your family, your relationships, whatever it is. And so it all like goes hand in hand.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's an investment in ourselves, right? And I think, it's an old saying, but like you can't pour from an empty cup. And so when we take care of ourselves first, then we have something to give. And I've found even myself, like I show up better when I take care of myself. When I'm putting myself on the back burner and I'm not, taking that time for rest and play and joy, like you talked about,
Mhm.
I'm not as patient. I don't have, as much capacity to listen deeply and intently and actively to teams and, things like that. So I just feel like it helps us show up better too.
It does. And so when you have those systems, so like let's take our personal lives for example, right? And like maintaining our homes, that is
Yeah.
huge. Having a system to maintain our homes so that our homes are clean and organized, and then we're not stressed. I think there's like studies that talk about like if your physical space that you live in is messy and disorganized, that is like a direct correlation to how your brain functions. And so
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
physical space is in chaos, your mental space is in chaos. And so having systems of maintaining your home, and I've noticed this like when I finally got on like a really good schedule of keeping my house clean, I was less stressed. I had more time. I back to like having patience. Like I wasn't freaking out because dishes weren't done and like telling my kid he was doing his
Yeah.
chores. So then and then the opposite was like I was able to spend more time with him. We could go do fun things. I wasn't feeling I was always catching up. And so
Mm.
those systems are super important just in our household.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know the first time, it was a long time ago, but when I first found the Marie Kondo
Oh yeah.
approaches to organization and keeping things in the same place, right? Having a home for everything. Like I just remember like, because what you're saying, it reminded me of this, but like the mental capacity and the mental space
Mhm.
that opened up for me when I started applying that were amazing.
Yeah. There's even people who like also take out decision fatigue with their outfits, like
Yeah,
Zuckerberg, he just wears the same thing every day. So that he doesn't think about what he's wearing, and he can take that energy and put it into his business or whatever else he wants to put it into. And it's talking about like the Marie Kondo, going back to like what we see and what society tells us. It's like Marie Kondo has one theory, one practice, and then she had kids
yeah,
and she's like, never mind, I can't do this.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So even like the people who come up with the methods, they're like, it's not a one size fits all kind of practice,
yeah,
and things change and we're human and things
yeah,
flow. And again, back to like women and how we're taught, like, yes, you need to invest in yourself, and yes, you don't have to be perfect. So even if you do fall off of your system, like, you just get back on it. It's no big deal. You don't have to have the perfect, most pristine home. It doesn't always have to be perfectly organized. You don't have to be completely minimalistic. You don't always have to be perfect at this certain way, or always have your makeup done, or always look amazing, or always have your shit together. Like, it is
yeah,
okay also to not always do the practice 100%.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love the call out that you said about, once she had kids, she changed her systems and what she was doing and maybe, I don't want to say like lowered the bar, but like adjusted to what was reasonable and realistic for where she was at. And that's a really important thing to remember is that life changes
Mhm.
and you can change your expectation of yourself. Like I know for myself, like as different things have changed, I've changed my expectation, whether it's being like, after, certain times in my life where I'm spending hours deep cleaning my house every single day to, okay, I'm going to, deep clean on these days, like you said, have the system. And, other than that, everything's going to stay in its place. And that's just going to be as good as it gets. We're not going to, scrub up the floors and the cupboards every single day. It doesn't make sense anymore. Right. Or, even, what you were talking about, like hair and makeup, like I used to spend so much time, you know, just exerting all this energy on all this hairstyles and makeup. And I mean, as you can see, like I don't have any makeup on today and I just have my natural curls. And for me, that provides so much more space when I have a lot more going on and I'm dealing with a lot more. So I'm very intentional now about how I spend that time and what I want to do. And it's not about like letting yourself go because I feel like I still like, obviously take care of myself and things like that. But it's about making that choice of like, do I want to spend an hour in the bathroom styling my hair, right? And doing like all of this makeup, Or am I okay with, like having a natural look that I also feel confident in for the next 3 days because I know I'm super packed in my schedule. Things like that.
Oh yeah, that's totally true. There was I don't wear a lot of makeup or often, and my mom would always be like, my mom is the kind of woman, and like, it's kind of a generational thing too. She always gets
Yeah.
up and gets her hair and makeup done no matter what she's doing, where she's going, not going. She's just a cleaning day or whatever it
Yeah.
is. She gets up and does her hair
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
And there was a time period I was like, nah, I'm good. Because I used to have like a really like terrible acne. So like I worked really hard on like just clearing
Yeah.
up my skin. And once it was clear, I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, my face. I just love my face.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, why aren't you wearing makeup? I was like, because I like my face. And if I put on makeup,
Yeah.
I know I'm lazy and won't take it off, and then my face will get messed up again. So it's kind of like I
Yeah.
knew my default system where I was like, I'm not gonna take care of my face if I put makeup on because it'll just stay on. And so like I just again back to that, right? You learn to love yourself the way you are. I learned to love my natural hair too. Just let it be,
Yeah.
actual face. And as long as you feel amazing, that's all that matters.
Right.
And
Right.
so like
Exactly.
you were saying about cleaning, right? And like I'm not gonna deep clean all the time. People are like, how do you do it all, Diamond, with your business and all the things you do and your son and all this stuff? And I was like, I don't. And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I
Yeah.
don't. There's days that
Yeah.
dishes don't get washed for I don't know how many days,
Yep.
or I won't do laundry for a month. Thank goodness I have enough clothes.
Yeah.
But like, I just don't.
Yeah.
I can't do it all. And even with systems, things slip through the cracks, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well, like giving ourselves that grace
Mm-hmm.
to still be human, I think is really important because like our systems are amazing. They save us time. They let us experience the richness of this life experience that we're having. But at the same time, to what you're saying, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, because if you have a system and then you mess up or, make us something falls through the cracks, like you said, and then you go beat yourself up about it, how is that winning? How is that helping you?
And you're the only one telling yourself that you did something wrong because
Yeah.
nobody else
Yeah.
knows your system,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that's like goes back to like our schooling and programming, right? Because we're like taught to
Yeah.
like get things done, and if you don't, then you're reprimanded in school, and that's how we're taught. But in real life, nobody cares
Yeah.
unless you're at work, of course, and
Right.
you did a deadline and you didn't do it. But in our personal lives, nobody cares if you didn't make the bed. If you didn't wash
Right.
floors,
Right.
nobody cares.
Yeah. You're right. Exactly.
The only
Oh,
person
I
who
love
it
it.
really impacts is you because that's where you live, that's where you sleep. So it's kind of like getting out of our
Yeah.
head, like nobody cares. And what
Yeah.
expectations
Yeah.
are you telling yourself about when you are beating yourself up? And I feel like that's another starting point too, is just questioning your thoughts and your
Mm,
beliefs. Because if you're
yeah.
upset that you messed up on your system, why are you so upset? Where does that stem from? And then that kind of is like a great leeway to therapy.
Yeah. Seriously. Right. Yeah. Shameless plug for everyone to go to therapy. We all need it.
Serious. Even for a little bit, just to like get the
Yeah.
tools to like be aware of yourself, question things, question yourself, question others, and be like, oh, I don't know if that's actually what I think or what I actually believe or how I actually want to live life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the question of like, is this pressure I'm putting on myself actually necessary?
Yeah. And then where is it coming from? And how can I let go of that thought and that belief
Yeah.
and not put that pressure on myself?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, what do I want to believe instead?
Exactly. And that's where things get fun. Because
Yes.
we're like, now I have a blank canvas. Which way do I
Yes.
go? What do I want to do? What do I want to believe? What do I want to create? And that's where like the true freedom and fun and exciting part come get to really make the decisions and be like, it's kind of like like when you're buying a new house and you get to pick out all your appliances and like the colors and the cabinets. That's like that
Yeah.
fun. You get to design your life.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Well, and you know, a lot of people can get a little bit nervous or scared because of some limiting beliefs that they have around, you know, taking that kind of control to design your house or your life or the next chapter of what you want to do. And you know, we have these limiting beliefs around, you know, money and self-worth and, you know, what can I truly achieve and what am I, you know, quote, worthy of, even though we don't have to be worthy of achievement. We're worthy as we are, right? As we were born, as we are until our last breath. But, you know, how do we, I guess, work through some of that? Like when we get to that exciting part where we want to pick up the appliances and the color of the wall, and but then our brain is like, maybe not, maybe you're not worth it. Maybe, you know, we kind of have those self-sabotaging things come up.
We do, it gets super scary. So when I was leaving my 9 to 5 job, I had been there like
Yeah.
6 years, and I was like, I had the mindset that I was like, this job, I have a really good job. It pays me really
Yeah.
well. It's security. I get free benefits, like health benefits for me and my son. Like, how dumb is it for me to leave? Right. And
Mhm.
but I was also miserable. I hated going to
Yeah.
work. I was always like crying. I hated the people I worked with. And so I was like, I can't live in this emotional state, even though it's providing security for my life. And so the last position I had at my job was in a cubicle in a really dark building. It was depressing. It made it all worse. But my entire cubicle was full of affirmations. And I had
Mm,
a calendar, peel off calendar for you are a badass.
yes.
Yeah, so they
I
have a
love
calendar
that.
too. So I'd read those every
Yep.
day. I printed out all the affirmations I needed, and there was one in particular that was like right above my computer, and it said
Yep.
something along the lines I don't remember, but it was something about like I'm not going to be in the same place that I in 1 year. Like in 1 year from
Yeah.
now, I'm not going to be here. And so it took me probably more than a year because I remember like 3 years before that, I was already hating my job and like slowly doing affirmations. But like it takes time to
Yeah.
reprogram your thoughts and belief systems and those limiting beliefs. And so that last year, I was covered in affirmations. I read them every day. And then I was like, okay, I'm leaving this job. What job am I going to go for? Because obviously I still need to be being paid. But I was like, what make me feel better, right? Where can I at
Yeah.
least be some kind of happy? And so I had to put it out into the universe. I was like, I have skills, I have amazing skill sets, and I don't even know what I can do with them. I was like, so I put it out
Yeah.
into the universe, like, bring me opportunities that match my skill set. And whole and below, I got an opportunity. I was like, oh, perfect. I didn't even know I could do that, but yes, I can. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like opening your mind up to the things that you don't even know that you're capable of because you just don't know. And so then I finally got a job at a nonprofit and that didn't work out, but I had a safety net. So at my corporate 9 to 5 job, I could take a leave of absence for up to 2 years.
Okay.
So I took an educational leave of absence. So I had this plan in the works because I was like, I need a net
Okay.
as a single mom.
Yeah.
So could take an educational leave of absence through my union. And so I took a year off. So I had to have been in school for like 9 months. So my plan was
Okay.
like really in the works. So I went to school, started my master's. I didn't finish. I just did it enough so that I could get out of the job. I started my master's and I kept my benefits for that year that I was on leave of absence. And then I started another job. That job didn't work
Okay.
out. And so I was like, okay, I have 3 months to figure it out. Do I go find another job? Do I do better on my side hustle, make it more full time, or do I go back to this awful 9 to 5 job? And I was
Mm.
talking to a really close friend of mine, and he's like, you should go back. And I was like, I can't. I was crying in tears, like my mom
Oh,
died or something. I was like, I can't go back. Like, no, I
yeah.
can't. And so then I did the next step. I was like, okay, now what then? And I was like, there's people in my network that I already know. I reached out to a bunch of different entrepreneurs and I was like, hey, do you need like an admin assistant? I see that you're growing. How can I help you? I got 2 part-time jobs doing that. And I was like, great,
Nice.
that's covering everything. And so it was just kind of like believing in yourself, right? And knowing what your like hard boundaries are. And like mine was like, I'm not going back to that miserable 9 to 5 job. I'm going to do anything and everything else I can do to support my life and
Yeah.
my son. And so, and then thinking outside of the box, like how else can I make money, or how else can I make this happen, whatever it is that you want to make happen.
I love this idea of what you did, which was kind of like these like bridge goals,
Mhm.
right? It's like, okay, I understand that like this is where I want to be. This is where I want to get to, but I'm over here. So what's the next step? Like what's the very next thing I can do to get me closer to that, even if it's like not my favorite, right? Like that probably wasn't like your dream job, but it was more spacious, more flexible, and it got you to the next step, which was closer to your bigger goal.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know how you feel about like frequencies and like chakras and like vibration, right? And like
Yeah.
levels of
Yeah.
vibration, right? And so, or even like the ladder visual where like people are trying to reach the top of the ladder, but the spacing is so big they can't reach the next step. So you have to
Yep.
do the other ladder where it's like smaller steps that you can get there. And
Yeah.
that's how vibration works too. Like you can't jump a bunch of vibrations, right? You have to like slowly get closer to it as you get used to it. And so that's what I was doing. I was like, okay, as long as I can just like a little bit closer. And right, so when I left my 9 to 5 job
Yeah.
to the nonprofit job, I was able to work from home and do something that was a little bit more in my wheelhouse that I enjoyed. And although it didn't work out,
Yeah.
like that's okay. It was a stepping stone to keep me going to
Yes.
keep place, because then after that, I got 2 part-time jobs doing more of the operation stuff that I liked. One of them turned into a full-time job. And then from there, I went into my business full time. So it was like it took a little bit,
Yes.
it took about 2 years, but you just had to keep moving forward because there was no way I was going to jump from 9 to 5 to a full-time successful business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it takes steps. And I think that's where like
Yes.
our other problem with our mindset is too, especially in today's world with like instant gratification and our dopamine hits and social media,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
Amazon coming. I still get upset. I'm like, why is my package not here in 2 days? But it's like we're so
Seriously.
programmed to have things immediate,
Yeah.
where when you're building
Yes.
a life, it takes time.
Yes.
It takes time.
Yeah. So if we have big goals that we want to, create and go after, how can we start, looking at what our ladder is and what those rungs might be? Like what can you share for anyone listening who's like, I love that. I want to start building that. Where do I start?
Yeah. And it starts with little changes, everyday changes, habit
Yeah.
changes. So like right now, for me, like a good example is like the summer, right? The summer, I was like, I'm not working out. I'm not worried about my diet. I'm gonna have a good time for the summer. And now school started. My son's back in school, and I'm like, okay, now it's time to get back onto that system. And
Yeah.
so, like, okay, what's the first thing I need to do, right? Because I want to get back to the gym and I want to start getting back on eating healthy. And so those are pretty easy general goals that probably everybody has, right? And so my
Yeah.
first step is like, what time am I going to go to the gym? My ideal time is early in the morning. So I need to make sure I go to bed on time and then
Yeah.
wake up on time and then go. And that's like the hardest part, right? Is starting. So it's kind of like you have to, I don't know, sometimes people have to like trick themselves in like maybe a reward system of some kind. It's like
Yeah.
if I go to the gym consistently for 2 weeks, I'm gonna buy myself like a new gym outfit.
Yeah.
You have something to strive for, and then you have a cute gym outfit, and then you want
Yes.
to gym more. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of, you know, so it's kind of like what
Yeah.
kind of reward system do you need if that's what you need? Like how you have to be
Yeah.
aware of yourself to know like what is gonna motivate you to go. And then
Yeah.
the next step is, okay, well, I need to start meal prepping again. I need to go to the grocery store. What day am I going to meal prep? What day am I going to grocery shop? And it's really just breaking it down to like, what is the next immediate step that I can do? And sometimes that's like a simple everyday kind of example, right? That everybody wants to
Yeah.
work. But like with
Yeah.
big goals, in my example of like, I want to work full time for myself, but I'm in a nine
Yeah.
to five job. So what can I start doing now? And that probably starts with like a side hustle. So what are you going to sell?
Yeah.
Or what do you provide? And start researching. When I actually started my business, I started when my son was an infant, and I started an Etsy store, an online e-commerce
Nice.
store. And I had no idea what I was doing. I lost so much money. But once I kind of got into it and I was making quite a bit, I actually had to pause because then that's when I went into work full time. And
Mm,
I was not making enough. I was making like maybe $200 a month. And I was like, okay. When I decided to reopen the store, I was like, my goal is $1,000 a month because
yeah.
it has to be like an actual side hustle. And so
Yeah.
it took me 3 months. I'm like, what do I need to do to make sure I'm hitting $1,000 a month? So I did a bunch of research. I had time, no money. So I was reading blogs, I was listening to podcasts, I was taking in every free resource that I could do or cheap resources. I was
Yeah.
reading books and implementing
Yeah.
every little tip and trick that they were giving me so that when I opened
Yeah.
up 3 months, I did triple my sales. I tripled my traffic
Yeah.
and my sales. And so it's kind of like, where can you find resources? Where can you put your time and energy? Who do you know that you can ask for resources or advice? Like, tap into your network. If you don't have one, go find one. What networking event can you go to? And it's just thinking like, okay, what is the next easiest, simple, accessible step that I can do?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
Well, you're meeting yourself where you're at.
yeah, and you have to, right? Because another example is me and two of my partners wanted to put on a huge conference, and our goal was 300 women. Okay, our first conference date was July. We sold 2 tickets. We're like, okay, well that doesn't work. So we pushed the conference to October, and then
Yeah.
we're like, we still haven't sold any tickets. We're like, okay. So we went from 0 to 100, trying to jump the ladder all the way to the top, and it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
We had to come back, and
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. Back to giving ourselves grace, knowing we have big
Yes.
goals. We'll make it one day, but right now we just need to do the first next step, which is just building community. So, how do we do that? We're doing co working events that are free. It just takes time. And so it's kind of like,
Yeah.
it's just different examples. And I think it's also hard when you're doing it by yourself or in your own head. And so then like
Yeah.
thinking loud or finding someone that will support you and help you brainstorm, be like, oh, well, you can do this or you can do that. What is the next step that you can do to help you get towards that goal?
Yeah, with the conference event, I love what you did because it was like, okay, we don't have the resources yet to do this, but that doesn't mean we give up. That doesn't mean we stop. That means we back up to a lower rung on the ladder and grab that so that we can still get to that other goal. That's huge.
Pivoting. It's pivoting. And also, I don't know if you've seen that quote where like the goal doesn't change, but the
Yeah.
plan does. How you get there can change.
Yeah.
But as long as you
Yeah.
if you think of it like driving, right? You're driving destination. You're like, I'm going to drive from Denver to California. And you're like, originally I was thinking I was going to go straight I-70, but that didn't work out because there was construction or something. So you had to go around, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Those are detours or different, like just things that come out of life, right? Like you get sick or an emergency happens or just things will happen. But as long as you just keep going and then get back towards the right direction, like get back on the highway.
Yeah. Yeah. And be flexible with yourself and with, I guess, your external environment too.
Yes, because you can't control everything. You can only control, what you can. When I went from my full-time operations business position to my full-time position, there was 3 months where I was freaking out because I wasn't making enough money to pay my house. And I was scrambling. I was doing Uber. I was trying to figure out any way I could make money. But
Yeah.
because I was freaking out and like in a scarcity mindset and a very low vibration, I wasn't taking care of
Yeah.
myself. I constantly had a headache. And so I had to take a moment to talk to myself and be like, you know what? This is ridiculous. You have the tools, you know what you need to do, start doing it. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And it started with taking care of myself, back to the self-care. That means I needed to sleep. That means I needed to eat, and that means I needed to drink water. Literally the basics. And then once I was back to having enough mental, emotional energy, then I was like, okay, what is my next step? Am I going to go find a 9 to 5 job, or am I going to go full time in my business? And either way, that is going to take time and effort. If I go 9 to 5, I have to find jobs. I got to go talk to people. I got to update my resume. If I go into business for myself, I need to update my services, and then I have to go find clients. So that means I got to go talk to people. Which way
Yeah.
did you want to go? And so it's just like weighing your options, figuring, like knowing the direction, deciding on the direction, and then what is the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the simplicity of that. And, I am so grateful for your time here today and, really showing us how to be empowered by our own systems and operations and what we're doing, both in our life and professionally, because it really does apply to all areas. So thank you so much for showing us, how to do that and, work smarter, not harder.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I really appreciated the time with you. And the last thing I want to say is that as women in our systems, the best way to move forward is really just listening to our intuition
Yeah.
to make decisions. Because I feel like that's a big kind of hurdle. Like how do we decide? We're always thinking
Yeah.
logistically and like, well, what if that's not how I was taught, or that's not how it's supposed to be, or that's not what I'm supposed to do? But how does it feel for you?
Yes. Yes. Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much for all of your wisdom and your stories and all of the things you shared with us that we can now take away to make our lives more of what we want it to be. Thank you for braving the inside of your mind with me. The better we understand ourselves, the more deeply we understand the world. And as our awareness grows, life just gets better and better. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review and share this with anyone else you think could benefit from listening. A quick reminder that the content shared in this podcast is for informational purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, and the discussions here are not a substitute for professional advice. If you're dealing with a specific issue or need personalized guidance, please consult with a qualified professional. Your well-being is important, and this podcast is simply a platform for sharing insights and experiences. I appreciate you spending this time with me. Until next time.